Creatine is everywhere right now. While the supplement has been popular for years among gym rats, the benefits of taking creatine now far surpass gaining muscle strength, and especially for women.
What are those benefits? How much creatine should you be taking? When should you take it? And will it make you gain weight? We answer all of these questions in today's episode. Let's dive in.
Carolyn, you brought a great topic to the podcast today, and one that until we started digging, we realized we have not talked about it since season 3. And just as a reminder to listeners, we are in season 6. So here I thought that this was something we had covered somewhat recently.
No, it's been a while.
It's been a long time.
Well, and this was kind of a selfish episode on my part because I've been seeing so many new studies about creatine, particularly with the brain. And I didn't want to, I wanted to start taking it again. And I didn't want to go back and listen to our old episode.
The whole thing.
Like, let's just dive in because we've been getting questions too about creatine. So we're going to cover some basics just to give people, we're going to break down why you should take it, the benefits it offers, particularly to women. Talk about any weight gain or bloating that
may or may not come
may or may not be associated. Yeah. This is info I wanted. Sorry. How do I get started? How much do I take? Because I could not remember that information, and I wanted to know what the newest research was saying. We're going to discuss is there the best time to take it and the best form to take, and if there's any side effects, anyone that shouldn't take it. And so kind of just give you the basics of what you need if you're like me and kind of just needed that refresher because you're interested in taking it.
Exactly. And
really, women, if you're not taking it, you need to. I mean, what can creatine not do?
I mean, that would be the spoiler that we're going to give you up front. Like, really, I think basically from like teens through older adults should be taking creatine, but particularly females.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I was not expecting.
So creatine is everywhere lately.
Everywhere.
So why should our listeners consider it if they're not already taking it? Let's just real quick, let's break down some of the benefits.
Okay. So I think at this point, hopefully everybody knows that this isn't just like for gym rats. And
I think people have heard that, but I think they're not really sure, okay, this isn't just for meatheads and gym rats, but what can it really do for me?
Yeah.
And there's really so much, it's really kind of a fun supplement because there's so much research suggesting that the benefits go way beyond helping you build muscle and muscle strength. And there's a lot of benefits, particularly for women.
Yep. Yeah.
So first, you can gain strength and really preserve your lean body mass, which is really your concern after you around the age 40 and on, because your muscle mass, your lean body mass is going to slowly decline with age. Well, when that declines, that means your metabolism declines. So the more muscle mass you can retain or even build is going to improve your metabolism. And there are numerous studies suggesting that when you take creatine and you combine it with exercise, that it helps you preserve your lean body mass, your muscle mass, and depending on your workout and your strength activities can even improve it, which, you know, we can't guarantee it's going to decrease your fat mass, but when you increase your muscle mass, that increases your metabolism and good things can happen. There's also some studies to suggest that when you combine creatine with exercise that it may help you maintain your bone mass, which is really critical for women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially in postmenopausal women, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's one.
Yep.
Two, cognition. There was a recent meta-analysis, which they compiled results from studies from 1993 to 2024, and they found that creatine supplementation had significant positive effects on memory, attention time, Lord, I need that, and improving processing speed. The studies that they combined the results from, the dosages ranged from around 3 grams to 20 grams per day. And we're going to get more into dosing. And all of them used creatine monohydrate, which is a form of creatine. And we're going to get into the form as well. Now, what's interesting is, so there were significant positive effects, but the greater benefits were seen in people who weren't necessarily 100% healthy.
Yep.
Or were under some kind of stress.
Yep.
Which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, especially like if they had some type of like chronic disease or underlying chronic inflammation, or if they were under stress. That was like when you really do see the benefits of taking creatine.
And just as a reminder, or you may not know if you hadn't listened to our previous episode on creatine. Creatine is part of or helps form the compound ATP, which ATP is what our cells use for energy. And so that's how it enhances your muscles capabilities, but also your brain uses so much ATP, requires so much. And so that is where they think the cognitive benefits come from. You're helping your brain use energy and gain energy.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. There was some headlines recently that we saw about this next benefit around creatine for sleep and sleep deprivation.
Yeah, I love this info. And I don't want to be sleep deprived, but the next time I am, I cannot wait to try this.
Yes.
So there was a small 2024 study that found that taking a high dose of creatine, which broke down to about 20 grams for me when I did the math. I'm around 130 pounds, so I based it on that. So 20 grams can partially reverse metabolic changes associated with sleep deprivation, and counteract cognitive decline that's associated with sleep deprivation. Like it helped alleviate fatigue, it improved your short-term memory, it improved reaction time and processing speed when you're sleep deprived.
Yeah, I mean that is huge.
A 20-gram dose. And the effects lasted about 9 hours. They really hit their peak around 4 hours.
Which is amazing. And there's other research that says like your creatine really hits your system after about an hour after ingestion.
Yeah.
So for it to then hit your system an hour after and then last as long as 9 hours is pretty fantastic.
Yeah. There was another study that looked at sleep deprivation as well, and it found that creatine could possibly be as effective like on your brain's abilities, like cognitive abilities, as caffeine.
That's awesome.
But then you don't have that caffeine in your system to keep you awake later. Yeah. So I found that so fascinating, the sleep deprivation benefits.
So there's also some like growing research that's looking at creatine for disease prevention and like more specifically metabolic syndrome and then also Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
Yeah. So Parkinson's and Alzheimer's is very, very preliminary, but there was a small study that came out this year. They gave 20 people who had Alzheimer's disease 20 grams of creatine for 8 weeks. And this was crazy to me. Those people who already had Alzheimer's disease had improvements in memory, executive function, and something known as oral reading recognition function, which is the ability to properly read and pronounce a word that you see, which can decline when you have Alzheimer's disease. But that was, I mean, these are people, they gave it to people who already had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and saw these improvements. And that kind of blew my mind. Now, this is very, very early research, but it's fascinating to me.
But still, I think it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
There was also some other research that we found where they supplemented people they gave creatine as a supplement, but looked at potential benefits devoid of exercise. And what they found was that it did have the potential to lower your blood lipids, like cholesterol and triglycerides. There was it slowed the development of fatty liver, and it even lowered hemoglobin A1C, which is the marker that you typically use for
Type 2 diabetes. Well, that flows perfectly into what I read. There was actually a study this month that came out that found that creatine could be used as an adjunct therapy to possibly prevent and manage type 2 diabetes. various small cellular mechanisms, but overall it improves glycemic control, how your body uses that insulin and glucose. And it also helped by preventing your loss of muscle mass. That helped your body maintain better metabolic health. So I thought that was interesting as well. Okay, and lastly, the mental health benefits. You really dove into this. What did you find, Brierley?
It is fascinating. Okay, so basically, like generally speaking, if you increase the amount of phosphocreatine in your brain, what they found was increasing
by taking supplements.
By taking a supplement, it was going to lower depressive or manic symptoms in people who have mental health conditions, right?
That's awesome.
So what they also found was that in studies where they combined antidepressants and creatine supplementation, that was more effective than just taking an antidepressant.
Wow.
So then I dove a little bit deeper into it because I wanted to see what some of the actual benefits were. And what I ended up finding was that this is one where when we said at the very beginning, like that women would really benefit from this, this is one area where when it comes to like mental health that women would really benefit potentially more so than men. And here's why. So we have lower levels of creatine in our brain, particularly in our frontal lobe. And that's the part of your brain that's going to control your mood, your memory, your emotion, your cognition. So this is why if we supplement, we do have the potential to reap a greater benefit. So going back to the antidepressants, they did 8 weeks of creatine monohydrate supplementation. And what they found was that in both female adolescents and female adults who have major depression, it significantly reduced their depressive symptoms. So for adolescents, for example, their depression rating score dropped from a 69 to a 30.6. So it's like about a 56% decrease. And they consumed a little bit of a smaller amount. They had 4 grams a day for 8 weeks. In the adult females, they also saw a big improvement in their depression rating score. They took 5 grams per day. But the thing is too about the adult females is that they saw improvements after just 2 weeks of this combination. And the reason why that's important to point out is because what it suggested to the researchers is that it's the combination of the antidepressant with the creatine is accelerating the effectiveness of the antidepressant medication, which if you think about it, there's usually like a 4+ week ramp up period for it to actually like kick in and start doing its job. So when you combine the two, you can shorten that window of acclimatization and then reap more benefits than just from the prescription alone. Which
that's cool.
I think is really cool. Really, really cool.
Very cool. Okay, so women, that is why you should be taking creatine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay,
right.
So let's talk about weight gain and bloating, because that is one thing that is the only drawback I know for a lot of females is they're afraid they're going to gain weight. So can you explain if that's true or not, or how that happens or how to prevent it?
Okay, so the short answer is it depends. The research shows that rapid weight gain is much more prevalent among males than it is among females, and that men do have more of that water weight gain than women do.
Yeah. So there is an increase in weight, it's usually water weight gain because creatine helps your body hold on to water. Is that right?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
So it literally increases the hydration at the cellular level.
Yeah.
And so when you're holding on to that, you're better hydrated. So that is a good thing, but that is going to tip the number on the scale.
Yeah.
Right? But so the men are just more likely to put on more water weight. And they say that it's like a temporary increase, and it's usually associated with a loading, if you do a loading dose. So we're going to talk about like, how do I get started? Do you have to do a loading period? That sort of thing.
Well, and I remember in our past episode on creatine, we had Jenna. She's an expert on creatine and supplements like that. And I remember her saying, if you do experience a slight weight gain, it's water, and it's usually temporary.
Yes.
It goes away.
Yes.
So it's just, but I know that can bother some people. It would kind of bother me. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, and as a result, I don't know. I don't have a comparison point, but when I did start doing creatine, I never did a loading phase. Yeah. I just did a maintenance phase straight out of the gate, which we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, so let's talk about how to take it and what a loading phase is.
Yeah. So
I want to get started.
Yes.
What do I need to do?
So you have two choices. You can do a loading phase, or you can just start with a consistent dose.
And a loading phase is a larger dose than what your maintenance phase is.
Yes.
And it's supposedly you start out at this larger dose to get it going in your body and your stores, and then you can go back to a lower maintenance dose.
Right.
And that used to be how it was generally recommended. But again, we're talking about it was mainly used by guys in the gym.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think of it the way I think about some of those like Ayurvedic herbs or whatever that you can take. Like there is a component where it helps to have it build up in your system, and then you just go to like a regular maintenance, even though I keep using that word, like maintenance phase. So if you want to do a loading phase, you're going to want to do it for 5 days. The recommendation is to do 0.3 grams per kilogram per day. You want to take that total amount, which for me and Carolyn is around 17.7 grams a day, and you want to divide that into 4 doses. So you're looking at about 4.5 grams per dose 4 times a day.
That's a big commitment for me right now.
I would agree. I would agree.
But research has now shown that you don't necessarily need that loading phase. Right. So as a female, I don't have time to take 4 doses a day. And the loading phase is really where you see a little more water retention.
Yes.
So research has now shown that you can start with just the maintenance dose.
Yep.
And that really is beneficial. In the long term.
Yes, exactly.
So what a maintenance phase or maintenance dose, what would that be?
So the maintenance phase this is confusing because I got it screwed up, is 0.03 grams per kilogram per day, or 3 to 5 grams. So I did the math.
Let's just do 3 to 5 grams.
Exactly. Because I did the math, and if you do 0.03 for you and me, it's actually just under 2 grams a day. And when you look at the research, there are benefits starting at 3 grams a day. There are more benefits starting at 5, and then for physical benefits. And then when you get to mental, cognitive, we're talking at least 10. A lot of the studies that you pulled were 20 grams.
A lot of the research on like maintaining muscle mass and metabolism and those studies, and the ones that were related to exercise, the dosage that they used in most was around 5 grams a day. Mm-hmm. What we found is that a lot of these newer studies that are looking at like the cognitive and the mental health, or the cognitive at least, they may use more like 10 a day. Mm-hmm. That Alzheimer's study used 20 grams, which is a lot. We'll talk about side effects. But in general, I think 5 grams a day is pretty standard, and you can just take that in one dose, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's like if you don't do a loading phase, they do recommend that you start at least 5 grams a day. And that's what I did. And I really didn't feel like I had any of the like bloating, water weight issues at all.
Okay. So let's say we're going to start with 5 grams a day. Is there a best time to take it? Is there a best form?
Okay. So if you want to reap the benefits for a workout, it's going to take about 60 minutes for it to like really get into your system.
And when you say reap benefits, you mean have more energy potentially during your workout.
Have more energy,
It's not,
like get a better pump or whatever you want to call it.
Have more strength.
Yes, exactly.
Lift heavier.
Yes. Now, I know some people who have said to me anecdotally that they notice a difference. I personally have not noticed a difference.
In your workout?
Yeah, in my work. I mean, over time, I've definitely noticed a difference when it's been consistently in my system. But if I preload an hour before a workout, I walk in there and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know that I saw a difference. Like there's so many other factors that go into it for me.
So we're just talking about potentially the benefits during your workout, that you have more energy and strength, but it really doesn't matter when you consume it.
Correct.
In general, to get like the maintenance of lean body mass, the building of strength. Okay.
Exactly. It doesn't, a lot of the experts say is they say consistency is more important than what time of day you're going to end up taking it.
Okay. Consistency.
Now, the only other thing I wanted to go back to is that study about sleep deprivation and cognitive function. So like that says it lasts for 9 hours and you peak at 4. So if you want to get really granular about it and you know that you really need to perform in some capacity, like walk it back from 4 hours, 9 and 4 hours. But overall, no, it doesn't.
Okay,
now, when you talk about the best time to take it, there is the time of day. And then when you look at research on women, there is actually some potential benefits to when during your like menstrual cycle you take it, which I thought was really fascinating. Yeah. Now,
I did not know there was a connection between creatine and hormone levels. Yes. And there is.
Yes, there is. So you're basically, I'm really bad about like follicular phase, ovulation, luteal phase. So what I found really interesting about this is that when you have your period leading up to day 14, your estrogen and progesterone levels are fairly low. Well, your natural levels of creatine, because we all have creatine in our bodies. Women have less creatine than men do generally, right? So your creatine levels are lower. Now, when you get to...
Which may explain some brain fog.
Yes.
Lack of energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because your body doesn't have as high a creatine for that ATP.
Yes.
To fuel your muscles and your brain.
Yes.
Which makes sense.
So, having creatine as a supplement can definitely be beneficial in that phase, right? Yeah. But here's the other thing, is that then when you get to ovulation and then what's called the luteal phase, which is basically from when ovulation is over to until your cycle starts all over again, right? That's when your progesterone and your estrogen are higher. Now they jump and then they have a little dip and then, but nevertheless, they are significantly higher at in those phases of your menstrual cycle than they are in the beginning. And so what some of the research was suggesting was that is a great time to actually capitalize on taking creatine because you can
when they're high?
Yes.
Already? Okay.
Yeah, when your estrogen and your progesterone levels are a little higher because you can really maximize your fat and protein oxidation. There's something about like your carbohydrate usage that it could be beneficial. Yeah. So again, like I wouldn't tweak your creatine supplementation necessarily based on your hormone levels, but the message I'm trying to convey is consistency is really important, but really don't miss it from day 14 to day 28 or whatever number it is that you start your period.
Well, I think consistency is going to be key because I never know what day I am in this. So fair. I think just consistency. Yeah. Consistency is what I'm going to go with.
Yes, consistency is very important.
Yeah.
But also, I think that also goes back to like, this is where men and women really differ when it comes to creatine and where,
men just have a lot more. And one thing that explained it is we found that men store creatine in their testes.
Yes, they do.
We don't really have a storage site. We don't have a testes to store it in.
Yeah, yeah. Most of it is stored in our muscle.
I don't want a testes though to store it in.
No, most of it is stored in our muscles. But we have, what was it? We only have 70 to 80% of what men have.
No, we have 70 to 80% less than men. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A million other reasons right there then why we should be supplementing with it.
Okay. I wanted to look at side effects and just safety. And what I found echoed what I was already thinking. This is really one of the safest supplements to take.
Yeah.
There's been a huge study by the International Society of Sports Nutrition that looked at it and has been looking at it since the 70s. And they've looked at thousands of participants who have taken it, at various ages, and they had, quote, no clinical adverse effects were reported in general. Any minor side effects were infrequent and not significantly different from the participants who were taking placebos. So this is one of the safest supplements I think you could take. Now, if you have kidney disease, you should not take creatine.
Yeah.
And then if you have bipolar disorder, check with your doctor first. There's some thought that taking creatine if you have bipolar may increase incidence of manic episodes.
Interesting.
So I didn't really dive into that. It may be an old study that may have changed, but check with your doctor if you have bipolar. So, yeah.
One of the things about creatine is that it actually is one of those supplements that has been around for a while.
Yeah.
When you talk about going back to the 70s,
yeah,
it's many decades that we've had creatine around. The other thing too is that, and this is just like me hypothesizing, is that because it has been used as like an ergogenic aid, right? That I feel like there are a lot of brands out there that are tested, that are like certified by the different organizations to make sure that if you're taking creatine, it's clean,
actually creatine,
and it's actually creatine.
Yeah.
Because in the sports world, depending on what you're doing, there's a lot of risk for you to take something that's tainted.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing, and I don't think we addressed this, is in all the studies I read, the form of creatine they used was creatine monohydrate. And that's predominantly what you're going to find. You really don't need anything else in there with the creatine.
Yep.
Other ingredients may cause side effects. You can just get a pure creatine powder and mix it in with water and your electrolytes in the morning.
I do. Yeah. I think Jenna has talked about like put it in your oatmeal, add it to a smoothie.
Yeah. It really doesn't have much taste.
No, it doesn't. The biggest thing is finding one. Now, when it's creatine monohydrate, it's going to dissolve pretty well. But that's really the biggest thing, is that I found like brand to brand, some dissolve a little bit better than others. I noticed it because I'm putting it in water.
Yeah.
Right. But it's really not. It's fairly benign in its like flavor.
Do you have a favorite brand so far of the ones you've tried?
I do.
What is it?
So my favorite is the Naked brand.
Okay.
I have, I think, at least one, if not two more at home to try. But I found that one was the best for dissolvability for me, and also for GI distress. Now, some people do say that if you take more than 10 milligrams, it can cause digestive issues.
Like diarrhea.
Yeah. And I have been more, I've not had that so much as I've just had like a general like slight like stomach discomfort.
Okay.
With some brands, but I have pretty much across the board tested creatine monohydrate. So it's not that it's a form, it's just brand to brand. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to recap for people really quick. Basically, if you're female or adult woman, you need to be taking some creatine if you're not.
Yes.
In general, a good dose is 3 to 5 grams. I'm just going to say 5 grams.
Yeah, I would say don't go below 5, especially if you're postmenopausal, because they looked at 3 grams and 1 gram, and
it's not worth your time.
Yeah.
Take at least 5 grams. Now, if you're going for more of the cognitive benefits, you may want to slowly work yourself up to closer to 10 if it doesn't cause any side effects, just to see if you get additional benefit. But you can get a lot of the benefits at 5 grams. Now, the one exception is the sleep deprivation. In those studies, they did give a high dose around 20 grams. But just remember, that may cause some digestive issues, but that may be worth it if you're sleep deprived.
I mean, it could absolutely be worth it.
Yeah.
If you drink a lot of coffee when you're sleep deprived, you might have the same digestive issues.
Yeah. And to further recap, it does not matter what time of day you take it. just take it every day, because the consistency is the key.
Perfect.
I can't wait to start taking this and see the benefits.
I look forward to you reporting back.
Yes, I will.
I really do.
I will.
All right, until next
Okay.
week.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Happy Eating Podcast. I'm Brierley Horton.
And I'm Carolyn Williams. If you liked this week's episode, then don't forget to rate and leave us a review on iTunes. And be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a new episode.
We can't wait to have you back at our table next week for a brand new episode. Bye.
The contents discussed in the Happy Eating Podcast, such as advice, studies, text, graphics, images, and other material discussed or presented on the site or podcast, are for informational purposes only. Content is not intended to be a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health providers with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on the Happy Eating Podcast.
If you are in crisis or think you may have an emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. If you're having suicidal thoughts, call 1-800-273-TALK, that's 8255, to talk to a skilled, trained counselor at the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If you are located outside the United States, call your local emergency line immediately.